All right.
Oh, can you hear me?
Marco.
I don't know about that guy.
I know. I
I don't.
said that. I
I
said
don't.
that on purpose just to trigger you.
I don't know about that guy. I don't know about that guy. I see his.
Yes, you
I
do.
see
You
his.
know exactly who he is.
No, I don't. I dare not to study the history of certain individuals. You know. You
Colonizer.
know. Yeah, man.
Colonizer.
That's why sometimes you gotta watch who you allow to shoot. When folks show up to your house, you gotta make sure you know who it is. Wrong person, you gotta look at them side eyes with a side eye.
That's a fact.
I'm just like, what's going
Like
on?
there he
Listen,
is. I was about to look
I
at
ain't
you
even
side eye.
listen, man. I ain't even turn the lights on. They like, yo, this dude ain't even got no power in his house.
Nah, you got power. What's up, man?
What's good, bro? How are
How you
you?
doing?
Man, just making moves, man. Just making moves. Just
I
making
hear you.
moves. How about you?
Man, I'm doing well. If I could turn down this,
I was
you
about
know
to
what I mean?
say, turn down that Facebook post.
Yeah. Turn down the volume on that joint.
Let me share it real quick.
Yeah.
We are
And
live.
just for some of y'all wondering, sometimes me and Rob don't talk to each other until we see each other.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that
On
is true.
on the podcast.
This is true.
You know what I'm
This
saying?
is very much true.
Ain't nothing wrong with that
Very
though.
much true. No, not at all. We had so much fun in an hour or so, you know, that it all works itself out.
Right. We probably talk to each other more than a lot of people talk to each other.
I agree.
Especially
That's
with
a good fact.
modern technology, man.
Correct.
Modern technology has changed the game.
This is true. This is definitely true. Are you doing one of those? I'm about to set you up, Rob, with this little intro you're doing, because I know you're always up to something sneaky,
No, I'm about to set you up, man.
man.
But before I
Oh
set
man.
you up, man, anything new on your end? Anything the good people out there in the level up past corporate trauma audience should know about?
I don't know, but I share some stuff with some people. So if
Uh-huh.
you don't know, I have a couple of different businesses that I interact with outside of what I do from 9 to 5. And for probably 13 or 14 years, I've always been a trainer. I've been a speaker, motivational speaker, inspirational trainer, coach, all of those different things. And something hit me one day where it was a situation where I said, "Man, all the things that I do is always about my time. It's about what I know, how I view things." And I said, "Hey, I got to figure out how I can diversify." So what I did over the past couple of months, I actually started a commercial painting, commercial cleaning, and landscaping company. So, and for those who don't know, I used to do a lot of painting and stuff when I was in college. So, had some tricks to the trade, but had to do some capital investments today, which caused me to pay a lot of cash. But I share that with with this thought.
Capital investments, huh?
Yes, yes, yes. Swipe, swipe, swipe. But I share that with this thought. It is not that I'm moving away from what I do, but the real part was how do I diversify my income, and how do I start to do different things to bring in income that may not always have to deal with me having to be the guy, right? And if you think about it from that standpoint, if you have to be Picasso, or if you have to be a great professor who's who's coming out of Timbuktu, right? It's one of those situations where everybody's looking for you and what you have up here to make it happen. And on the days when you're not available, for many people who are in that lane, they don't eat,
Right.
they don't make a sale. So for me, I'm always trying to figure out how do I multiply who I am? How do I make it so that not only I can eat, but others can eat, regardless if we're sleeping or if we're somewhere else? So I share that just to say, hey, take it into your own hands, get your team, pray on it, move as you see fit, but make sure you're vibing on the right level and ready to level up.
That's right. Yeah, one of the professional's toughest dilemmas, or not dilemma, or obstacles, or puzzles that you have to figure out is how do you scale yourself, right? Because the mark of a real contributor, a leader, right, is what happens when you're absent, what happens when you're not around,
Exactly.
right? And see, it feels good to be needed. You know what I'm saying? And but that's the innate narcissistic side in us. To be focused on self, right? You have to have a healthy amount, but of narcissism or focus on yourself, right? And y'all hear us talk about narcissism in the workplace a lot because um, there's a line that people go past, for the sake of business, for the sake of, it's the job, it's not personal, right? You know what I'm saying? But how do you scale yourself? And then also still continue to be authentic and then do the best for the most amount of people involved, right? Because it could go really well or it could go really wrong, right? You try to scale yourself, go really well, right? And Rob, we use sports as an analogy all the time. I remember one of the situations that hurt my heart when I was in high school here in Atlanta. We woke up one morning and Dominique Wilkins had a Clippers jersey on. That was not a good day. That was not a good day. Now,
Hey, man.
it was 19, I think it was 93 or 94 in the middle of a playoff run, right? At the end of the season, much like right around this time of year, the Atlanta Hawks at the time had the number one record in the Eastern Conference. Dominique, he wasn't a one man show. He had an all star point guard, Mookie Blaylock, and they had a full
Mm-hmm.
cast, and they were doing well. He was obviously the leading scorer of the team and one of the leading scorers in the NBA. And we woke up one morning and he was traded for Danny Manning, right? Another player that I'm a fan of. Watched Danny Manning win the national championship in 1988 at Kansas, but Danny Manning was coming off of a knee injury, and he just wasn't quite the same. So we traded Neek straight up for Danny Manning and maybe some picks or something. I entered the playoffs with Danny Manning
How did that go?
and not the human highlight film, right? They got bounced. They got bounced early out of the playoffs, Rob.
Mm.
And when they did the playoff run analysis, it
Mm-hmm.
was they couldn't score. So you have the most prolific scorers in the
Mm-hmm.
history of the sport on your team for a decade, for over a decade, and you trade them before your one of your best chances. Obviously, in my juvenile mindset
Mm-hmm.
at the time, right? You know, as a
Yeah, that
teenager,
was whatever you
before
about to say. That wasn't gonna happen.
like,
Go ahead.
I didn't expect
It
him to
wasn't
win the
happening.
championship that year,
Okay, I
but
thought you was about to say that. I'm about to say,
nah,
don't
nah,
even say
nah,
it.
nah, nah. We knew the Bulls was going to pull it out, right?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
it would have been exciting, right, for the Hawks and the Bulls to like meet deep in the playoffs or something like that,
Yeah.
whatever. And for those of you who don't know, when I say the Bulls, I mean the Chicago Bulls. I mean the Michael Jordan led, Scottie Pippen led Chicago Bulls, right? But when I think about that, the Hawks they were exposed. They
Mm-hmm.
Lenny Wilkins was the coach at the time, who at that point in time was either the most winning coach in NBA history or very shortly thereafter he was the most winning
Mm-hmm.
coach in NBA history. They had a system. Lenny had things popping, and they thought they could scale that philosophy in the playoffs without
Mm-hmm.
their best player. What
Mm.
happens when your best player leaves, right? What happens if you are the best player and you're not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you brought that up. Good example.
Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. All right, what we got? What we got?
Hey man, we're gonna get into it tonight. So we're gonna discuss when we started off talking about technology, right? And the advent of technology in the new normal, right? That's another show right there. The advent of technology in the new normal.
Yeah.
um, but man, I want to talk about, I had a brief conversation with my wife this morning and a light bulb went off. And I figured we
Mm-hmm.
could take this as a conversation. Um, the pandemic has exposed a lot, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that we were talking about that people aren't really, um, for lack of a better word, please don't take this wrong. One of the things that you don't really hear people complaining about or focusing on right now
Mm-hmm.
is inter-office politics, right?
Mm.
But those dynamics are now hyper exposed
Mm-hmm.
at home. So our subject tonight is inter-office politics, domestic dynamics, and the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. Right? There's a lot of ways that we could go, but I want to hit the nail right on the head, with
Mm-hmm.
um what my wife and I were talking about this morning, right? Like People who use a significant amount of interoffice politics to advance, sustain, and grow do not have that right now as an advantage. It's you, especially if you're remote, right? Um, this is not necessarily if you're in person, like in an office, but if you're remote working somewhere in a space that is not germane to your department, right? Obviously, if you're an entrepreneur, but if you're working in the virtual space or the desegmented, decentralized space because of the pandemic and what we've learned that people that are not tied to a building or a geography are just as productive or more. And a lot of organizations are going in this direction. One of the things I posted about not too long ago, Rob, was the consideration of a 4-day work week, right? These things are starting to, be considered where they once were far-fetched. But back on point, right? The inter-office politics is a big part of being a professional, right? You have to learn at some point how to navigate it. And your learning curve in learning how to navigate inter-office politics is a contributor to corporate trauma in and of itself, because that can happen between you being a beginner or becoming proficient at inter-office politics. What is inter-office politics?
Tell us, Jamal.
Hey,
Tell
listen.
us, Jamal.
It's where people use their privilege, their seniority, right? The ability to speak a certain language, just being in the know of how things work. And when you have people that are proficient at those things and people that are not, then interpersonal conflicts and interpersonal relationships start to either manifest as hostile or toxic or beneficial, right? Like me and Rob in an office together are enhanced, right? If I'm in the office with Rob, then both of our agendas are enhanced individually, and then collectively there's a benefit. But I've worked with people where that's not the case, right? And that in and of itself, where it does not work, impacts my performance, right? And that's even if it's just one person that's integral to what I'm expected to do. Now, if it's 10, right? Now it's 20 personalities that I got to learn and I got to know. And then, I got to coach up and maintain my performance. And if I have direct reports, I got to coach down. And man, inter-office politics is just elaborate. But if we're remote, and I don't see you on a daily basis, some of those antics and some of those things that people use to help themselves daily, professionally, they don't have it as a part of their toolkit no more. Right? And then you have, now they're spending more time at home. So where things like the using the office and what you do as a professional as a part of your identity, and then all of the inter-office politics that are involved is a part of what makes you feel good about yourself, even if that means taking advantage of people and situations. You don't have that no more, and then you are relegated to you in a home office and a computer screen. We got an issue here. Right? We got an issue here. And now, not that I think that everything is based on raw data and results, but what merit looks like in the workplace is completely different now, because you got people who would have not benefited from inter-office politics are now just being looked at as, man, I'm getting my job done.
Yep.
In less time. I don't need the pecking order, right? I don't need the seniority ladder. And now people that needed that feel threatened. What say you, Rob?
You gave us a lot. Yeah, you gave us a lot there. So I'll run it down from how I digest it and like how I intake it. Um, First, your ability or the skill of being able to vibe with people may not go as far now, right? Because sometimes the barrier of technology, you lose some of the emotion, you lose that connection, you lose that feeling of what you can feel in the room, right? There are folks who, to be honest with you, they are going back into the office because they want that old thing back, right? They want to be able to know that, hey, as long as you see me, you know I'm doing work. And for many of them, when you don't work, when you're working at home and you're not in the office, you can't always hide,
You can't fake it. You can't fake it today.
right? You can't fake it when you're working from home. Now, here's the crazy thing when people think about, oh, but people be working from home and they'll be doing this and doing that. But the difference is now you don't have any excuses,
At all.
right? So it can't be, oh, I ran here and I ran here. In the office, oh man, I didn't get this done because Jamal came to my office. Well, hey, well, my supervisor was in my office the whole time. That's why no, there's no, we was in our, no. The expectation is now you got to get it done, right? So now you have to find a different way to win, a
Mm-hmm.
different way to make those connections. Your personality now has to come through that screen.
Right.
You got to actually be intentional. And then on top of that, being on Zoom also elevates some of your flaws, right? Your ability, and I know even firsthand, sometimes the ability to be able to maneuver your way through something, right, is different in person than it is online. Because the feeling in the room can let you know.
Right.
A lot of times the silence online can just be because folks got you on mute. But when you're in that room and you know you didn't drop the ball, and you can see them face expressions, you can see how the bodies are feeling and looking.
Right.
You know, hey, I need to pick this up. I need to do something different. I need to figure out how to connect better.
Mm.
That's what you get when you're in person. Online, it's a different ball game. And
It's a
like you
different.
said, folks can't hide.
Yeah, you can't hide and you can't fake it. And you have to,
Mhm.
and we are more acquainted with our humanity. Like I really can't stay focused on, Wednesdays because I know that new episode of Moon Knight is gonna drop, and I'm gonna be wanting to watch it
Oh,
during the
that comes
work.
on tonight.
It came out yesterday, you know what I'm saying? But most people may, if you didn't catch it last night, you may want to watch it or watch it again during the
Mhm.
workday. Like,
But after this, though, don't watch it during this. That's
don't
not
watch it
acceptable.
during the,
Exactly.
you know, and I'm being really, I'm really simplifying, distractions because especially when we're talking about working at home. Not everybody works at home, but I want
Mhm.
to touch on that because a lot more people are now or have the ability to work at home for more than just you know on a sick day or a holiday or a holiday or something like that. Right now it's
Mhm.
part of your schedule. So it's easy to be distracted, especially if you have a family, you may have
Mhm.
children, you may have older parents you're accommodating, you may have your spouse that you're accommodating, like the work day, the hours are
Yeah.
different,
Mhm.
right?
But you know
You're at,
what?
you're at home, you're not going to run out. Like,
Yep.
you're more likely to want to cook yourself breakfast or versus run out to get it because you're not going anywhere. You know, you don't have a destination. You wake up in your destination, right? So there's just a lot of differences and nuances to it. And I'm like I said, I'm simplifying it on purpose with
I'm happy
practical
you brought that up.
examples. But you can't hide that. I can't hide my 6-year-old running in the room.
But I'm happy you bring that up. You know why? Because we were faked. We've been faked out for the past couple of decades with
Yes,
the idea of what work-life balance is.
right,
Work-life balance shouldn't be you need to have your butt in this seat 9 to 5 and then make sure that you're taking vacation time and you're doing things to take care of your mental health when you get off of work. You know what real work-life balance is? You taking care of yourself, your family, and your job in an effective way as you see fit, as your calendar and your time sees fit. The ability for some folks to be able to work from home offers that work life balance,
right,
a real idea of what work life balance is, where your wife doesn't always have to be the one who is picking up the kids, right? Because a lot of folks who are making whatever you consider to be big time money, a lot of the work that they do, they can do from home. But they go into the office because when you're seen, that's how you get the promotions. But they're in their office or at their desk typing away. And my pitch has always been if you really think about what is it, 8 days, 8 days for the weekend,
right,
right? So roughly that leaves us with what? 20, 22, 21, 22, 23 days, depending on if it's leap year or if it's 30 days in a month or 31 days.
right,
We really got to do, and this is a plan for those who are leaders. If your workforce can work from home, let them work from home. And then 4 days out the month, you come in the office for team building, camaraderie functions where you are intentional about why you're here. You're not just having people come in, put their butt in the seat so they can say they did it. You're having them come in so that everyone can interact and get that so-called synergy going that you're talking about. But there's no pressure. You're coming into the office like it's a retreat, but in
mm-hmm.
the office,
I
and you're actually
regularly have a retreat.
that's it every month. And now you can, if it's Google, you can have the free snacks. And now you can plan ahead of time, right? So you can say, okay, here's these holidays, so we know, hey, it might not work this week. Okay, this is how the schedules work for my team, right? So you can go by teams. One team comes in this week of the month, another week, another team comes in the second, another the third, another the fourth. So we can really be intentional about how we operate. But
Right,
that's not the case because there are folks who like to be in control of situations. And that's where a lot of a lot of my inks, like a lot of my problems come in because the idea of somebody wanting to control my time, which they can't give me back. And if y'all hear me say that on every meeting, you don't own me, sucker. And the idea, the idea that that trade-off is equal is nuts.
yo, you listen. You will often hear me say, right, that
Hmm.
the way the corporate industrial complex is set up is based off of a narcissistic idea anyway, and the new normal forces, or no, it what trust looks like is different,
Hmm.
right? I have to trust that you're gonna get it done
Hmm.
because I don't have the ability to look in on you. I mean, you could, but you would have to take advantage of certain technological um, tools and to be able to do that.
Hmm.
But I can't look in on you as easily as I could if we were in proximity to each other to see if you were doing it and then doing it the way, right? This is the narcissistic mind working, the way that I want you to
Hmm.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the advantages, right? And so trust even looks different, and trust is big. Trust is big, even if you're an individual contributor. You trust is big for you as a professional, right? And then if you're a
Mm-hmm.
leader on a team, how you trust your team. If you're on a team reporting to
Mm-hmm.
someone, um, earning trust, professional trust, all that stuff is so important.
Yeah.
But Rob, you bring up there was something you said earlier that I want to see if you have any ideas on that we can touch on. Uh,
Okay.
you said we have to figure out a new way to win, right? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Um, taking like how do we nurturing nurturing uh synergistic relationships that are mutually beneficial does not look the same. I can't take you to
Mm-hmm.
Top Golf for lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
That might be, you may have a pre-existing condition and that may be a risk for you. I can't do it the same way, right?
Mm. Great point.
Right. The the um the fact that we can't hide. If I do drop the ball,
Mm-hmm.
how making up for that looks different remotely and virtually versus, right,
Mm-hmm.
when we were in person and in proximity. Like you could see me come in early and stay late
Yeah.
to
And
make
stay
up
late.
for it, right?
Yep.
But if I drop the ball now, there's nowhere to come in early at. There's nowhere to leave late. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you drop the ball, you should have been working on this on the through the prescribed hours because you have more availability anyway because you don't have to worry about going nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those politics, man, that that every professional has to deal with, those are a couple of examples of we got to figure out a new, and not that people are perfect, these things will happen. um
Mm-hmm.
and the need to nurture productive relationships in the workplace is still key, right? But my wife was, saying, my wife is a black woman, um, and she made a very personal comment. She said, now there are professional women like her that don't have to worry. They can wake up in the morning and don't have to worry about their hair in the same way they did when they were on Front Street. And this is
Great point.
the old paradigm of
Great point.
natural hair for black women versus hair that is other than natural, right? They don't have to, that's a different conversation now that I don't have to worry about that. Like I get the clippers, I get the clippers and we turn the zektitude meter up and I get zeked, right? That's that's a little bit of a different conversation. So, and then Rob, how do we win? Because culturally, we're not all the same, right? Culturally, and that'll be, and I'm gonna come back to that. But what are some ideas about how we win? You know, we got to win differently.
Well, the first thing is flexibility, right? When we think about the teams that we're on and the people that we work with, are we being flexible for what we think the company needs? Are we being flexible for what we think the job needs? But most importantly, are we also thinking about what the individuals need who are doing the job and working at that company? And a lot of time, the flexibility is based on the company, right? Because ultimately, you're like, hey, if you don't want to do it, then don't work here. And then now there's some companies who are like, oh, people don't want to work. No, 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 no. People don't want to work how you want them to because they've heard your solution. If you don't like how we run it here, then don't work here. And then when they don't work, they call people lazy, right? So it's one of those situations where you got to kind of understand the marketplace and the people you're looking to hire, right? If I'm looking to hire folks who want to paint, if I'm looking to hire folks who want to be speakers and trainers, then I have to be mindful of one, what's the customer looking for, and also what's my team member or members capable of doing and offering in a timely fashion. Right. So the solution is being flexible and malleable and taking into consideration the people who are working
Right.
for you just
Right.
as much as you're taking in consideration the company that you're running.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a definite win. That's a definite win. I also think about, right, interoffice politics. One of the things that is out the window is professional dress and dress code. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that can't use.
Man,
They can't use it as a benefit or detriment anymore.
I used to flex though. Like
Oh, I
I
know.
tell, listen, I'm coming in there. I don't even care what your suit costs. I just know in my suit, I'm gonna look like I'm wearing a suit.
You're on mute.
Yes, that's because the people who are in the background are making all this noise, right? My goodness, I knew what I was doing because that's a part of the team. That's a part of the
Right.
atmosphere, right?
Right.
So you get that situation and it's more or less like, hey, do I understand what's around me? Do I understand how I can still make it do what it do? And for me, a part of my package was, hey, I know how no matter what my clothes may cost, I know when I put them together, they're gonna look nice on me. And now working from home majority of the time, that's not always top of mind.
Right. 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 No.
At least I make sure I don't show up in pajamas, at least the top half.
There's a whole lot of
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of red bottoms right now collecting dust.
Oh
Right.
yeah,
There's some
definitely.
there's some there's some nice fancy belts that's not getting used. Anybody see it? No, nobody sees that, my man. Right? There's a whole
It's
lot of
over.
perfume not getting sprayed. Nobody smells that,
Hmm.
right? These are the nuances of the changes of interoffice politics that even on a incremental level, they actually add up, right? Because it speaks to your awareness, your being up to date, down with modern times. A lot of those things that are interwoven into inter office politics are out the window,
Hmm.
right? They're out the window, and it's not to your advantage anymore. Or depending on what side of the spectrum you're on, it's not to your detriment anymore. And then it comes down to culture, right? There's a lot going on with culture. I'll use myself as an example. This is the observance of the holy month of Ramadan, which comes down around once a year for Muslims on a lunar calendar, so it moves. And so those that practice Islam
Hey, happy
during the holy
Ramadan.
month of Ramadan are abstaining from a number of things
A
and
number of
fasting
things.
from a number of things. Food is one, right? And it's a time of reflection. It's a
Hmm.
time of renewal, revival. There's semblances of this practice in all spiritual systems and whatnot, but that looks real different, right? Now at home
Hmm.
or
What you
remote
saying? What you saying?
or remote
Than is it more
than it.
difficult? Is it more
No,
difficult? Because
I don't
you got
know. I mean, it could be.
no.
It could be. It's not more
Okay.
difficult for me, but I tell you
Okay.
this, right? So part of any cultural or spiritual system, whatever practice that these spiritual systems or religions or cultures use to help you recenter yourself, uses a form of mindfulness or prayer or
Hmm.
meditation, right? That's just a lot of these use that. And so when I was going to work, that was part of my religious tenet that I had to somewhat sacrifice because it's just not part of the corporate industrial complex in a major way. Some places do a really good job, of allowing the individuals that work, you know, in their organizations to observe these things. But now that I'm at home, my schedule's got to change because I have to be based on my convictions, whatever that is. But that may not be convenient if I'm going into the office every day. For the people that are depending on me to do a job based on an agreement, you work from 9 to 5, right? I got to give you that, especially if you're paying me. So, but now culture is stepping, and then and okay, the observance of Ramadan is an extreme case, but we just have cultural nuances to us where, man, my house is my sanctuary. If I want to talk loud in my house, I get to do that. But if mom or dad or grandpop is in their office working, you talking loud is a distraction, is an
Yep.
interference, right? Um, and
That's a
and
good
I'm being
point.
funny when I say talking loud because I'm thinking about my children when I say that. Like, I think all children are culturally loud.
Bruh.
Right, right.
That's an
Well,
RJ face. Bruh.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Bruh.
using that as a an example that bring about some levity. But there's cultural things, man, that now interoffice politics um, is going to be impacted by, from those that are remote, those that are working, or those work cycles and standard operating procedures that have been interrupted or forever changed by the pandemic. When we talk about the advent of technology and the new normal,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot going on with people culturally, things that they were thinking about and that they're thinking about today that they would just it was second nature to sacrifice and not do, even though it was a conflict with your culture or with your religion or with your way of life, right? And you said work life balance. One of the things that I've always included in the corporate trauma training is an explanation between work life balance and work life integration, right? Those that suffer from corporate trauma the least are the ones that integrate work with life the most. Meaning
Mhm.
they're in
Good
harmony,
point.
right? They're not separate.
Mhm.
Like, I don't have
Yep.
to balance to, like, that's why we suffer from corporate trauma, because you feel like working in life, in your life, your regular life, your personal life is two different things
Mhm.
when they don't have to be, right? And
Mm.
but when our work is now absorbed more congruently in our personal lives, now we have to integrate. Man, I really, what I'm doing professionally may interfere a lot now with who I
Mhm.
am personally. How does that impact who you are and how you show up? Right? Those things are things that people are considering right now, that interoffice politics put people in bubbles and pockets and in a pecking order, right?
Mhm.
Got some weird practice, based on the majorative, like you either don't do it or you stick out like a turd in the punch bowl, like we said last week.
He said a turd in a punch bowl. Oh Lord.
Right?
oh, oh
So
my.
so people are making decisions based off of totally new stimulus, right?
Mhm.
Especially culturally. What do you think? You experienced anything like that yet?
Mm, I don't know, man. I know sometimes this may surprise people, but I kind of buck the system, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm always trying to figure out how in the world do I make it work for me, and I get in trouble at times. But I try to. I'm always trying to figure out how to make a situation fit my lifestyle. No matter where I work at, I'm always trying to make sure that I remind myself that I represent a business as well, right?
Very
We
important.
and so whether you Christian, Muslim, a Buddhist, However we choose to, live our lives, a lot of times we get to work and we just become an employee, and we lose the idea that we're a partner, at least for that position. We're a
Mhm.
partner in the relationship. You know what I mean? So being home and my home is a sanctuary, it's the idea of, hey, does what I do fit when I'm home? Like, because that's the crazy thing. Some people, the work that they do, they like, man, I can't even do this at home. I gotta get
Hey, talk about it.
right. I can't talk about it. Don't like the feeling. I don't want to bring that home with me. So it's like that's the one thing when I'm processing and thinking about all that we talk about with corporate trauma, you know, the idea and remedy that always comes to mind is taking ownership of what you own and being mindful of how things around you are trying to impact that, whether directly or indirectly, but making sure that yours, own your space, own your bubble, your box, whatever it is, and make sure you see how things are coming towards you to kind of make that more difficult to do.
Absolutely. I totally agree because you know, it's just it's just hard to really think about what things was like 10, just even 5 years ago or 10 years ago, because in the last 2+ years we've had to
Mhm.
totally totally shift. And I love movies, and you watch one of those old investment banking movies, right? Like Wall Street or The Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room, right? And you are a ruthless um, salesperson or someone in line with sales and investments, like an investment banker, and you are forced to run that from your house. And you taking money from people, and you're at home now, and that looks real different now that you're at home.
Mhm.
And I'm speaking off out the side of my neck. I don't know if anybody would ever do that from home, or if they even had to, but you get my point.
Mhm.
um I watched, right, a
But they
great,
could though.
what'd you say?
But they could.
Yeah, they could
But
they
there are folks
could
who do it now. Like there are folks who they could have a multi-million dollar building and they do a lot of this stuff from home because they can. They might just want you to be in the office.
Right, right, right. Right. Like I used to work with a guy who came to the organization that we were both employed with at the time from um, a financial institution that he made a lot of money at, right? And he only took a job where I was working because his significant other had gotten into school, and they needed to move to where the school was, right? Listen to this stuff. She had an ultimate, his wife, right, had an ultimate
Mhm.
opportunity to go to a postgraduate, attend a postgraduate program. And it was like, yo, let's bounce, let's move. So they moved to an entirely different state. He quit his job. They were resting on his nest egg. He had made a lot of money. And he was like, man,
Mm.
I might as well get a job. And that's where we met, because he was just
Mm.
to keep from sitting at home.
Yep.
And he said to me one day when I started to learn more about him, I'm like, why are you here, man? Like, I'm young. I just graduated. You've been in the game for a minute. Why are you here? And he was like, man, I made a lot of money taking money from old ladies, right? Calling them, getting them
Yeah.
investment. Like, so
Yep.
I can imagine if that, which was 20 years ago, was today, and he had to do that at home in an earshot of maybe a parent that he may have been living with, or his significant
Yeah.
other, or you know what I'm saying? Like, it just takes on a new a new life. And like I
Yep.
was getting, and one of the thoughts I was having, I watched a great documentary the other day about David Geffen, the
Mm-hmm.
entertainment mogul. It's called Inventing David Geffen. And he was a young man from Brooklyn, um, who was he was a Jewish young man, and always
Mm-hmm.
fantasized about being in the movie business. He loved movies, and
Mm.
so he said on the day he graduated high school, he moved to California to kind of explore this affinity he had toward working in the entertainment industry. But he didn't act, he didn't sing, he didn't have no talent. So he was trying to figure out what was he gonna do. I got to be
Mm-hmm.
in the entertainment business, but what are we gonna do? What am I gonna do? So somebody told him, you should be an agent. So he got a job at William Morris, an agency, started in the mailroom. All right.
Mm-hmm.
David Geffen started in the mailroom.
Hey.
He forged and lied about his collegiate credentials. Said he went to UCLA. I forget the school he said he went to and that he graduated from. He's a high school graduate, but he said he graduated from college
Mm-hmm.
and was working in the mailroom. But he had this gift, right? And I won't spoil all his gifts and everything, but he had this gift and an affinity for the entertainment business. So he learned so much by being in that building, delivering people's mail. He said, I learned to read upside down because he was pulling in information
Mm-hmm.
that would later be very, very useful to him as an agent and a manager
Mm.
of major stars and whatnot. But when he was talking about, he said, I lied about where I went to school. I lied on my resume. I lied on my application. And they had a copy of the application literally
Mm-hmm.
in the documentary. And he said the person who ran the mailroom got fired. And he said, what happened? He said they found out I lied on my application. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
so from that day forward, he started to come in early and leave late,
Mm-hmm.
sort all the mail so that he could intercept UCLA's response verifying whether he graduated there or not.
Whether he graduated or not.
He found the envelope. And meanwhile, he's making all of his colleagues look bad,
Yeah.
Rob, because he's doing all this extra work. So it's making everybody else look lazy, to your point, what you just said earlier. If you don't do work, people think you lazy. No, there's a dude who lied on his application out here
Right.
doing all the work for us, right? He said he found the envelope from the school. He replaced it with a
Mm-hmm.
letter that he typed and said that he graduated. Bruh, that's how he got started. I was looking at the TV screen in utter amazement. Like I feel so dumb because I'm not surprised because I've seen and heard this before, but every time
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that way. So every time I see it and somebody
Somebody
benefits,
gets it done.
I'm like, I even said
Sounds
one
like a
time,
movie.
man, as a stand-up person, you got to think like a criminal to be successful in some of these in, in some of these arenas, right? And proved proved that I don't mean be a criminal. I mean think like one, right?
Mm.
I don't mean steal, lie, and cheating and do things that
Mm-hmm.
are wrong. I mean think like, all right, what can I do as a nonconformist, to your point, Rob, to make this work? Like, how can I think outside the box? He thought completely outside the box, but I was so amazed the length that he went to expose the world to the gifts that he had
They
the
had.
opportunity to share with the entertainment industry. Like he
Mm-hmm.
literally endorsed Barack Obama and didn't endorse Hillary Clinton. Like he was a big part of that whole thing. But
Yeah.
he started as a liar in the mailroom. Those
Mm.
interoffice politics, right? That a man like somebody like him can glean information and stuff off people and how they interact with our domestic dynamics
Mm-hmm.
do not exist anymore.
I don't know that.
It's a new way to win, Rob. You said it.
I don't know, man. You gotta have some. There's a lot of stuff going on when you try to pull off certain things, but certain people actually believe that it's possible. That's that story alone is just crazy. I don't even know.
And this
Like
is in
you,
his
you
own
trying,
words, so I'm not talking
so you
bad
trying
about
to
David
tell,
Gifford.
bad or not? So you trying to tell me I got to go out and figure out how to do something similar, but from working from home?
Well,
Hey.
somebody's going to figure it out, but I'm saying that way of doing it, which lasted for a very up until 2020,
Uh,
people don't have the benefit like they did once did of inter-office politics, because that was all political stuff. Let me
mm-hmm.
hear who's talking about who, and let me find out what's going on here. Let me see. Let me be the fly on the wall. There's no more flies on the wall,
But
right?
that's why some folks want to go in, right? That's why some folks
Yeah,
want to go in.
yeah. Especially the people who benefited from that stuff,
Yeah.
which come from a different world than a lot of us,
Hmm.
right? We think, all right, you gotta get good grades so you can go to college, so you can get a good job and let your work speak for you. Meanwhile, there's a dude in the mailroom, and that mailroom is even antiquated,
Hmm.
lying on his application, stealing secrets and making moves, and um has become, before the age of 40, he had built three entertainment businesses, two or three entertainment businesses, and sold them. He was a
Hmm.
multi, right? But that
And
was
that's
his
how you started.
entrepreneurial spirit. He was gonna find a way to get it done either way. But I'm just, it's just such an interesting thing to me that interoffice politics, the way we knew it, do not exist.
Do not exist.
Right, right. Cal, my man Cal said that Calvin said the new wall is social media. And that's an excellent point, Calvin, because social media ain't even real.
This
Some
dude
of that
crazy,
stuff ain't
man.
even real, man.
Yeah, the craziest thing about all this, and here's the strangest thing. For all of the billions and millions of dollars that people are talking about and the amount of time that we're using, we are one incident away from none of that mattering,
That's
right?
a fact.
When like, and I said this, I was on the phone with someone earlier, and they were talking about how, oh, we can't compete with some of these other companies, the tech, because folks, they don't consider this particular industry um sexy or not, right? So I'll use an example. I said, so you're trying to tell me a company that creates a website where people can post pictures, videos, and gossip, another company that allows you to post 140 or 160 characters of information, another website that a company that produces a search engine that's more tech, or that's sexier than the idea that you're working at a company that produces something, whether it's a car, whether it's pharmaceutical drugs, in the sense of things that are life changing for cancer, for whatever the case may be, for kidney failure, whatever you might think of. I'm sharing that because the craziest thing is we buy into certain things, the narrative around certain things, because you know who always promotes something that's awesome? The person who already has it. If you already got it, your job is to promote it so other people can jump on. If and this is not to say that anything's wrong with Facebook, Google, Twitter, having an iPhone, whatever the case may be.
Right.
All of those things need power.
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna get me a Bitcoin or NFT.
Right.
You can't even tie your sneakers or brush your teeth,
Right.
right?
Or
You,
you invest in that, right? The same
yeah.
people that are investing in that tried to tell me that buying a bunch of sneakers, that buying a bunch of sneakers was a waste of my money. The same people that's going to invest millions of dollars in a picture that they can't touch.
With the expectation that if I can get more people to jump on,
Right.
then things move, right? And here's the crazy thing. It's not that we got to shoot other people down from what they're doing.
Right.
It's just the idea that you have to be comfortable with what you're doing. And there's so many people, you know what I mean, who look at things differently.
Yeah.
And even when I think about even the whole entire thing with Bitcoin and everything else,
Right.
I remember I'm like, hey, I'm just going to invest in some of this stuff just because maybe something hits. And then I just
We may
like
be
someone
on to
just
something.
talked, huh?
I said, yeah, because they could be
Yeah,
on to
right.
something.
They could be on to something. So it's not about me pushing away, but I
Right.
also know if a small group of people can give it life or kill it, I don't want to be too far involved. And I
Just
saw exactly something like that with Elon Musk when he went on Saturday Night Live and killed Doja Coin, a dog coin, whatever you want to call it. Right. So it's one of those situations where kingmakers and you're not the king, then you gotta kind of walk with caution,
yeah,
right? Because so people are making industries around us as we speak,
as we speak.
and then they have to get buy-in,
Yep.
right? At one point in time, people you didn't have masses of people looking to buy sneakers as collector items to
Until
also resell. So many of us, when you
right.
think about the idea of pairs of Jordans were first coming out throughout the 90s, and then early 2000s, people were still just wearing them,
Wearing them. That's what
right?
we was
And then
doing.
you get to mid 2000s, you start to get everybody trying to sell them. Look, I sold a couple of pairs of sneakers of pairs of Jordans on eBay,
Yeah.
and then now it's so huge that you have conferences about them.
You
And I
got
just know that
bots. You got bots that buy out
yep,
the retailer
buy
that
out the
regular
sneakers.
people who shop in more traditional ways can't even get a hold of them. And people of our generation, of our age and
Hmm.
older, are the reason why this industry popped off in the first place. You
Talk
understand what
about
I'm
it.
saying? And
Yep.
it was a status symbol issue, right? It was
Hmm.
it was all it was interoffice politics in a different way, right?
Yep.
Like people from communities that I'm from, right?
Hmm.
Black and brown people were wearing gym shoes because we couldn't afford real shoes, like dress shoes.
Hmm.
Those were the status. So we had to wear gym shoes. And because they were more economical.
Hmm.
But we made that pot. We made that hot. We made that pop because we embraced our resources and what it could provide us,
Hmm.
and then it became a trend and a fashion statement, and now a multi billion-dollar industry when we was just trying to be like Mike, right? That's what we was doing. We was trying to be like Mike. But now
Hmm.
these are these are works of art. Like I got a pair of sneakers in my closet, a pair of Jordans. I played the tenor saxophone growing up.
Hmm.
Michael Jordan is a huge jazz fan. He designed a pair of his sneakers to look like a saxophone, and they come in
Who
a
is that?
case. Those are like the 16s, Jordan 16s or 17s. Remind me, I'll bring a picture of them next week. Um, and but they come in a case like they're a saxophone with their pair of sneakers, like
Mm.
just ingenious stuff like that we wasn't thinking about,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just started to evolve, and now we got works of art. And then when you bring it down to modern day times, I was talking to our resident money man, Mr. Kenji Godfrey, who's been on the
Mm-hmm.
show. He said, "Man, Jamal, don't you know that Google and search engines like Google, but especially Google, is about to get into healthcare?" And I was like, "All right, well, help me understand the connection between healthcare." He said, "All right, so when somebody gets sick, what is the first thing they do?"
They Google it.
So now Google has big data that they can
Mm-hmm.
put together through algorithms,
Wow.
right? Now they can
Wow.
predict, sell,
Mm-hmm.
forecasting, but do you want better? They can now get in the healthcare industry and produce medicine because they got key information before even the healthcare industry gets it.
Mm-hmm. Before you make it to your doctor, somebody that knows. There's already somebody that know, and the crazy thing about it is, there's already somebody that knows how many people are even searching for this. You know what I mean? So
And that's going to
it's
affect
like,
the prices of medicine, right? That's almost like insider trading. There's a
hmm
trend of individuals between the age of 39 and 65 that are Googling this particular medicine or ailment that this particular medicine is connected to. So
hmm
you can price it now, right? Like it's incredible how far things have gone.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So there's so much stuff, and I hope folks process like that idea, even from where I started as far as talking about the things that I have going on to when we're talking about the interoffice politics, when we're talking about you're at home and things that you do at work kind of flowing into your home. Like at the end of the day, there's so many of us who are just like kind of on a walk through life, but not kind of grasping what's happening around us.
Right.
And I think that's the piece where when you think about everything that's happening, we have to have a really, really big idea of, you know, what do you imagine the world would be? Where do you see yourself going?
Right.
What do you want to be a part of? And I hope that folks, take that idea and like really kind of say, hey, what do I want my world to look like? Because when you come into your own house, it's your world,
It's your world. Right.
you know.
And the things that you don't have to worry about that you had to once worry about, you don't have to right now. Right. Um, I'm in my office, I'm looking at a jersey from my alma mater. I didn't wear it, but it closed because of the pandemic. So a friend of mine who was still working at the college, whom we played together, got me a jersey with my jersey number on it. But I'm looking at a jersey that I've retired,
Mhm.
right? Because the school that I played for closed down, not because it didn't have
Man,
enough students,
y'all were that bad?
no, because of the
I'm
pandemic.
talking about the basketball game, the basketball team.
We was all right. They
Okay.
got better as the years went. Like we was decent. But look, man, but the things are the value, to your point, right? Something like that may be more valuable than I could realize because the pandemic changed things to the point where now something that once existed does not exist anymore, and the remnant of it may be more valued than the actual existence of the institution, right?
Mhm.
Or I could be completely wrong. But one thing that we do know, one thing that we've said on this show before, the time
Mhm.
is up. All that top down,
Mhm.
narcissistic competitive, performance-based, non-servicing way of doing business and infrastructure in the corporate industrial complex is out the window. Like it's still functioning, right? Right. There's a tree. You may have a tree in your yard that dies, but you don't know it's dead until a strong wind blows and it falls
knocks it over.
and knocks it over. This is what we're looking at, folks. We're looking at the old way dead, right? In a completely new way to think about. So, as it relates to corporate trauma, we need to rethink, to Rob's point earlier, how we win. Because if you got to think about how you win in a different way, then losing corporate trauma doesn't mean the same thing either. That has to evolve. Has to evolve. You know what I'm saying? People gonna figure out or try to figure out a new way to impose negative interactions in the workplace, creating another type of corporate trauma and another type of pattern. We're just trying to get this one out.
You dropping some gems as usual on. I don't like. I'm not ain't gonna. I'm just gonna that vibe. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. But say.
All right. All right.
No, I'm just that makes
you breaking up a little bit.
Up now.
Not talking. Yeah, you talking.
He said that's a minute. You didn't tell me I was still breaking up.
You know that. All right, man. Look, we it's been just Brother Jamoul and Rob last couple of weeks. But rest assured, or know for a surety, like somebody I know that says that all the time, that we're going to get back at it and having guests coming on and contributing. We just giving people a chance to kind of adjust as in our, you know, people are saying, man, we back outside. So they back outside, right? So sitting on the podcast may not be as popping as it was. But I haven't really, we haven't really been pushing. We haven't really been pushing too hard on that anyway. It started with us.
I had some folks tune in and they said, man, listen, you guys do an awesome job by yourself. I don't even know if there's enough room sometimes to have other folks, you know. And the crazy thing is there's a lot of different things that we can do. Just like with any talk show, TV show, if you were able to hear the conversations that we actually have off the camera, you might be like, oh, these guys.
Right.
You know, so there's so many different levels to it.
Yeah, and if anybody out there has anything going on or knows about anything that's that would be relevant and interesting for more people to hear, and you would enjoy us having a conversation with them, y'all know how to hit us up, even if it's, you know, tuning in and throwing it in the chat. My man Louis Forts shot me a suggestion, Rob. We got to look into, there's an organization out there that's called Black Unicorn that is sort of like a marketing PR firm, helping people rebrand themselves, right, and how to do things differently, and as it relates to professionals and working in corporate. It's just so in institutions, organizations, and individuals like that, we would love to talk to. So if anybody knows anybody, don't hesitate to let us know. We're not saying we're gonna guarantee you anything, right? But we would, hey, we'll take your suggestions. We'll take your suggestions happily.
Yeah.
I'm up for suggestion. And Rob has he got a whole bank of people that he hiding. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I ain't deep. I ain't deep all that.
There's the people that we know that Rob know, and then there's the people that we don't know that Rob knows.
Yep, and I ain't gonna know neither of them. I don't be beat. I be want. I be wanting to be on the camera.
Right, right, right. Rob is he's the guest every week. You know what I'm saying?
See, I get bumped all the other week, so I'm good. See,
Don't be like that.
nah, man. Yep, it's the new way of looking at it.
All right, folks. We hope you learned something. Hope you think about something. If there's anything that sparked you, let us know. If there's anything you disagree with,
Hmm.
let us know that too. But remember, corporate trauma is a sneaky passive trauma that's gonna be here for a while when you really learn what it is. And when it creeps up on you, there's only one thing left to do. What's that, Rob?
So level up.
Till we see y'all again. Later.
Peace.